Shanklin. It is so good to be here today at Clever. I am the CEO and founder of Barlele, where we help entrepreneurs, social do-gooders, and small businesses show up like the big deal that you are. I'm excited today to talk to you all about the 3 pillars of brand strategy, because brand can often be a nebulous concept where we get confused sometimes about what's marketing versus what's branding and what really is branding and what is effective branding. And so we're going to talk about that today. To get started, I want to let you know about a mind-blowing stat. Did you know that 80% of brands believe they are delivering great consumer experiences, but only 8% of consumers agree? That's a big disconnect. Now, why does that happen? Because maybe you've seen this happen in your own branding, or you've experienced this yourself with a brand that maybe you purchase products or services or software from. I believe it happens because of fear, right? So if you've ever felt like this dog standing on this ledge right here, unable to jump, unsure of what to do when you're thinking about your brand, some of that is fear. Oftentimes it comes from internal, miscommunications and fear of failure, fear of going out on a limb, fear of being different, fear of not playing it safe. Because oftentimes with our brands, we feel like if we play it safe, we're going to be okay. Just play it the safe route. And there's also a fear about not always talking about ourselves and our company and what we're doing and us, us, us. In branding, we often have to talk about the customer. We even often have to talk about things that we like that other brands are doing, but we have that fear of not having everything be about us. But the last time I checked and Googled the definition for brand, boring did not come up as the definition. Playing it safe did not come up either as the definition. Playing it fearful definitely didn't come up as the definition for brand. Now, I like to think about brand as owning your voice and showing up with it through stories, visualization, and proof of how you bring value into someone's life. I'll repeat that again, how you bring value into someone's life. We're going to get into this when we talk a little bit more about one of the 3 pillars of brand strategy. But first, before we get into those 3 pillars, I want to share with you the number 1 rule in branding, the number 1 rule in my world in branding. And it takes a page out of one of my favorite authors and marketers, Seth Godin's book, The Purple Cow. Don't be boring. I believe that normal, if you just play it safe with your brand, if you just play it normal, all you're doing is adding to the noise. So normal is noise. In a sea full of cows in a field, which one do you see? Which one do you notice among the white cows and the black cows and the brown cows and the spotted cows and the Oreo cows? If there's a purple cow out there that looks a little bit different, that's not playing it safe, that's showing up as unique, you're going to see that cow. So don't be boring. Don't be normal. Now let's get into how to do that, how to cut through the noise with the 3 pillars of branding. And there's a lot of schools of thought on branding, right? There's a lot of different ways to break down how to do branding, how to think about your story, how to write your brand story. I like to think a bit through the rule of 3 core pillars. Number 1, there's your brand essence. Number 2, there's your brand message. And number 3, there's your brand identity. So what are these things and how do you use them to cut through the noise, to be that purple cow? Let's start with brand essence. Brand essence is, what's your vibe? How do people feel about you when your brand walks into the room? This can be made up of your brand personality, your purpose, your vision, your mission, your values as a company or organization. What is that vibe that your brand gives to people? How do you make them feel when they experience your brand? How do you guide them along the journey of experiencing your brand. And there's different ways to think about this. One of the popular ones that maybe you've seen before, if you've ever read much about branding, is to use brand archetypes. And this is a great example. If you want to go check out iconicfox.com, they've got all the brand archetypes really well defined and written out. When you think about your brand essence and that personality, it really is about kind of defining, okay, what kind of archetype do we want to fit into? Are we the explorer? Are we the outlaw? Are we the everyman? Are we the caregiver? Are we the magician? And that's going to depend on the personality of your company and the kind of products and services and solutions that you sell. All right, so let's get next into the second pillar, and that is messaging. Messaging is so important. And I want you to stop and take a pause and ask yourself, when you're looking at your own messaging, why does it matter to them? Now, them is the buyer. Them is the audience you are trying to reach and trying to communicate with. Maybe it's a buyer, maybe it's a partner, maybe it's a volunteer. Them could be different audiences. I think it's important to get into our audience's head when we think about our own brand and think less about what we think we need to do and say, and more about what they need in their lives, what problems they need to solve, and how do we solve those problems? How do we fit into their life? So when you think about brand messaging, I want you to think about how to fit into the audience's personal or professional aspirations. What do they care about? One of the ways to do this is to remind yourself that attention is hard to get. People are balancing and juggling a lot of things. Attention is hard to get. It's hard to keep. Branding and good branding and being that purple cow is a way to get attention. But then you got to keep that attention. How do you do that? I like to think through this part of the branding strategy through Maslow's hierarchy of needs. What is it that our product or service or solution is doing to fulfill one of these needs on the pyramid of needs? Do we have something that fulfills a physiological need, a safety need, a love and belonging need, an esteem need, a self-actualization? So once you determine that archetype and that personality and that vibe, you need to then align it to what are you actually doing for your audience to fulfill their needs in life. All right, the third part, and this is often what people start with when they think about branding, is the identity, the logos, the fonts, the typography, the colors. I think that part comes last. You have to do the first two pillars before you can actually get into the look, the feel, the sound, the touch of your brand. And once you define those higher level things, like the personality, the essence, and the messaging, and how you actually fit into someone's life aspiration, then you align the identity to match with those other two pillars. That's when you get into how do we connect visually, auditorily, through the senses. That's when you get into your logo, the colors you use, the typography, the kinds of images, and even the type of media. As an example, do you use video versus graphics versus podcast? And sometimes you can use them all, right, in your brand and use them in different ways to align with that essence and that message. The identity is where you see some of your favorite brands out there, some of the biggest brands out there in the world, right? Where you just spot it and you know it's them, right? What is the taste of Coke and what does it look like too? How does it feel when I hold the can and take a drink? How does it feel to put on that pair of Chuck Tees or drive the Honda or enjoy your morning coffee from Starbucks? All of these things, the look, the touch, the color, the fonts, the feel, all of those are combined to create the brand identity and how people actually connect on a sensory level with your brand. All right, let's do a big quick recap. The three essential pillars to a brand strategy are first determining your essence. What's your vibe? Then your message. Why does it matter to them? And then lastly, the identity, the look, the feel, the sound. And don't forget to not be boring. Boring and normal just adds to the noise. For effective branding to cut through the noise, it is key and important to be different, to be unique, to show off your true self, and to be authentic. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. I hope this was helpful. If you want to stay in touch, reach out to me at barlele.com or send me an email at taylor@barlele.com.